Hi everybody, welcome back to Ag Class. As you know, last week we finished up our floral design unit. We did our right triangle arrangements, we did round floral arrangements, we did corsage and boutonnieres, and we finished up the rest of the principles of design. So this week for Ag Class, we're doing something a little different, something that I kind of had to teach myself in order to teach you guys. It was a review from some biology classes that I've had, so it was really good for me to kind of be refreshed in the material. And now we're going to dive right on into it, and we're going to work on our animal science unit, but specifically we're going to work on animal genetics and heredity. So the study of genetics and heredity is very important to agriculturalists because agriculturalists want to breed plant and animal varieties that are going to be the most beneficial. So we're going to want plant varieties that produce the most yield, and we're going to want livestock breeds to have desirable characteristics. So we're going to talk about heredity today, and that is the passing of physical or mental characteristics from one generation to another. So for years and years and years, farmers and ranchers have selected livestock and varieties for specific traits. We want dairy cows to have high milk production. We want adequate muscle mass, structural correctness, and this allows farmers and ranchers to ultimately have a higher quality herd, higher quality yield in their field, and higher quantity. We can make more plants that can produce at a higher rate, and we can just have a higher quality, and we can produce at a higher rate livestock as well. Most plants and animals have two kind of every gene. One will come from the mother, which is the maternal side, and one that will come from the father, which is the paternal side. Only one gene from each parent is passed to offspring for a particular trait. So let's just think of some of the things that we might have gotten from our family. I know for sure that I got my blonde hair from my dad's side. My mother's side of the family is very dark-headed. My sister's actually dark-headed, and I'm the only sibling with blonde hair. So I got that from my dad's side, and me and my sister also got our green eyes from our mom. So those are some of the things that were passed down to me. And I know when you look at pictures of maybe like your grandparents or your cousins, you can see some similarities in the way that you look. And that's due to genetics and heredity. We're also going to talk about alleles today. Those are forms of the same gene with small differences in the DNA sequence. So within the alleles, there are small differences that can contribute to each organism's or each individual's unique physical characteristics. So there is physical characteristics that are passed on, and also genetic characteristics that are passed on. The phenotype refers to characteristics that are passed on that are physical. So anything that you can physically see, like I just discussed, my hair color, my eye color, how tall you are, that would be something that you could see in your physical appearance. Then when we're talking about genotypes, that refers to the genetic makeup of the person. So that's a little harder to see. Maybe you notice certain mannerisms that you've inherited from your parents. I like to shake my leg when I'm working on something to really focus in. So that's a little tick I guess I got from my parents. Alleles can be dominant. They can also be recessive. So dominant alleles will always overpower recessive alleles. And the dominant allele will always be expressed. In the instance where both of them are present, the dominant will overpower the recessive and will only be able to see the dominant trait. Recessive alleles are only expressed or inherited when they get both of the recessive from both their maternal and paternal. So together, they both get the recessive gene, and there's no dominant gene to overpower or overtake. So the recessive gene is the one that we see there. Allele in cattle, we'll talk about that a little bit. A recessive allele in cattle is actually the hornless. I apologize. The recessive allele in cattle is the horns. More likely than not, you will see cattle without horns or polled cattle because that is the dominant gene. So more cattle will be polled than horned because the horned will not show up as often because it is recessive. So any instance in which they are combined, the dominant allele will win out, and that's why we see more cattle without horns than with horns. Dominant alleles are expressed by uppercase letters, so we're talking about horns and no horns. So dominant would be expressed by a capital letter. I don't know if you can see that A very good. By capital A, and then typically the recessive alleles will be denoted by a lowercase letter. So we've got dominant and recessive. So anytime this is made as a pair, this will be referred to as a heterozygous pair. And that's because we've got both the dominant and the recessive present. Okay, so what happens if we have this? We have two dominant traits. Well, we know that the dominant is going to be present because it always takes precedent over the other. So the only way for our recessive gene to be shown is, let's say, the mother, she gives the recessive gene, and then the father gives the recessive gene. And together they've got this, and that's when the recessive gene will be seen. And that's also a homozygous pair because they are the same. Hetero, different, homozygous, the same. And now we're going to do a little fun activity to kind of review what we've went over. We're going to do a little build a calf workshop. So I've got my cows over here. I've kept them out of eyesight so that you couldn't see them. I've got my Angus cattle, and as you can see, I colored him black, but this is a Scottish breed of beef cattle that is known for good meat quality. So the Angus, I'm going to tape him on the board so we can see him. Our Angus cow. And we've got a Hereford, which is an English breed of beef cattle, and it's got a red body with a white face and a white stomach. So these are the two breeds of cattle that we're going to look at today in our little Build a Calf workshop activity. And what we're working to figure out is the characteristics of our baby cow here. So I'm going to tape him up. We're going to figure out what characteristics he's going to inherit from both his mother and his father. So we're going to find out what baby calf is. Okay, and I have a little chart here that's going to tell us what we get because, you know, genetics is up to chance. So we're going to flip a coin to determine each of our baby calf's traits. Okay. So I'm going to flip a coin. I've got heads. Heads on the mother's side. The dominant is X. So now we're determining the sex of baby cow. We got a capital X, which is the dominant for the mother. We've got heads again, which is dominant for the father's trait. So it looks like our baby calf is going to be a female. From the characteristics that she got, I apologize, from the mother and father. So now we're going to determine polled or horned. For the mother, we've got tails, which is recessive, the lowercase p. And then we've got heads on the father's side. So we've got a capital P and a lowercase p. So in this instance, the dominant one will be the one that we see. And we talked about earlier, the dominant for polled or horned is actually polled because we see more cattle. So it's going to be a polled female calf. We're going to determine a red or black coat. We get heads, which on the mother's side, it is a capital B. We've got heads on the dad's side, which is capital B. So it looks like our baby calf's coat is black. And for last, we're going to do solid coat or spotted coat. So it's either going to be solid or spotted. Mother's side, we've got heads, a capital S, the dominant trait. And then for father, we've got tails, the S. In this instance, the dominant trait's going to win out, so it's going to be a solid coat. So it looks like baby's looking kind of like mama or daddy over here. And we talked about heterozygous and homozygous. The two X's here would be homo, because they are both capitalized. Here it would be hetero, because we've got a recessive and a dominant. So we've determined that our baby calf is female, polled, black, and solid. And I hope everybody learned a little bit about genetics and heredity. I just want to say before I go, I want to really cram it into you that it is very important for farmers and ranchers to be concerned about genetics, because they select animals and livestock that have certain traits, desirable traits, make meat juicier, tender, taste better, higher yields. So anybody interested in getting into the ag business should be concerned with genetics, because it really makes it easier to produce higher quality and a higher quantity. So I'm going to do a little review with you today. We're going to do a little quiz. I'm going to give you 3 questions. If everybody will pull out a sheet of paper and label 1, 2, and 3. Number 1, what is a dominant allele? I'll give you just a few seconds. Number 2, what is a recessive allele? And then for the third one, I just want you to write 2 sentences on why farmers and ranchers are or should be concerned with genetics regarding their farming operations. So I'm going to let you go. That's all the time that we have today. I hope you have a good weekend, and I can't wait to see you back in class for our next section. Thank you.